This is Hunt Nebraska, the official podcast for insight into Nebraska's hunting and shooting sports community. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, our space for sharing stories, information, tips, and techniques. Now, Hunt Nebraska.
Welcome into the Hunt Nebraska podcast here today. And as you can tell, for those on our YouTube channel, we did a little remodeling. We decided to open up the space a little bit. And I'm assuming from talking to both of you, this is not the only changes we're going to make. We might be making a few more changes, potentially still some sort of centerpiece in here or something else. But right now we remodeled, decided to go without the big table because we want to keep more you guys in our perspective and talking to you and not you guys just kind of watching us talk to each other. So,
well, yeah. I think we had some feedback that there was a lot of views of the back and the side of our heads on YouTube. So we're trying for something that's a little bit more forward facing. Plus, I feel like these chairs are a little bit more relaxed also.
Definitely like the comfy chairs.
Yeah, they're definitely more comfortable. I also I just have to point out, Kyle said we remodeled, which I find adorable because you were actually on paternity leave for a little while. So Rachel and I tore this place apart while you were gone. And it was like a surprise when you came back.
It was very much a surprise. The other fact of it, too, was I want to say I did give a little bit of help here before we set up podcast here.
You did.
As you can tell,
take that from you.
The other part, too, we're going to keep updating a little bit, is Right now I have 3 cords laying on my lap. So it's not a foolproof method quite yet, and I cannot get out until everybody else leaves first. So I'm first here, first last to leave, but that is
Well, I think it also requires assistance, so we may just leave you here today. I don't know.
Yeah,
you don't have anything important to do, I'm sure. So
no, you guys, as you can tell, I've been off on leave for a little bit, and I deserve a little bit of
heckling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome back,
teasing.
Since you guys had to help cover my position for me. But
yep.
No, it's good to be back. I'm excited to be back in the cabin here. We're excited to get back to recording some more. As we get into it, let's do some introductions. I'm Kyle Gass. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator here for the state of Nebraska with Game and Parks. We have Megan Price, our hunting and shooting sports outreach coordinator.
Yes, you got it.
All right.
Yep, I am here.
And then we have Rachel Carlson, our shooting range and shooting sports coordinator.
That sounds good to me.
Sound good? All right. Whatever you guys decide your names are from day to day, we'll go with that.
The names don't change. The titles just kind of go off of vibes sometimes.
Yes.
Depends on what we want to deal with that day.
What programs I want to claim. Yeah.
Yes. Very good. And as we're recording here, we have come to the conclusion of the spring turkey season. So that's a little bit on the sad side now that the season's wrapped up. But on the positive side, I know both of you got out. Obviously, I was stuck with a little one, so I know I couldn't get out. But just general impression.
Excuses.
Well, I was going to say, as far as excuses go for not going out turkey hunting, having a newborn is a pretty good one.
Yes, I will give him that.
I did want to go, but my significant other made a pretty good argument that I didn't have to carry a baby for a few months, and I don't have to, do the constant feeding of the kid all the time.
The delivery.
Or the delivery, those parts. So I better be around to help with the baby at least the first few weeks afterwards. And with this baby coming right at the beginning of season, it kind of eliminates most of my time per season.
That's fair.
But don't worry, I'll get out the next season. Don't you worry. But can you, real quick, off the top of you guys' impressions or thoughts on this turkey season? Just give one either, let's go with just one word. You have one word that kind of, I'm springing this on you. One word to describe what this season meant to you or your impression of the season. You kind of go different ways, but
I feel like we need 2 words.
I was going to say, I need 2 words.
Yeah,
all right,
2 words.
Go with 2 words. What do you got, Megan?
Too short.
That's pretty
I
self-explanatory.
just didn't get to hunt a lot, so yeah, it was too short for me.
It was a learning experience for me.
Learning experience. All right, we'll have to dig deeper into those here in just a minute. But as we wrap that up too, a lot of us are starting to also think about, okay, now this season's wrapped up. What's upcoming? What's going to be happening in the future? And for any of those big game hunters, we've hit an important time right now where our current draws and points application period is going on right now. Mm-hmm. So what are those dates here, Rachel, that's going on? And do you know much about that process?
I don't know much about the process. I do know that there's a YouTube video on our Nebraska Game and Parks channel that walks you through how to buy your preference points or apply for the draw. So that's for antelope, elk, and deer for residents and non-residents, and I think those are separated. And that is open as of right now, June 4th, but it opened June 2nd, and it will close on June 13th at 5 p.m. So if you are looking for preference points or want to apply for the draw, now is the time to do it.
Central time, right?
Central time, yes.
Perfect.
Very good. Yes, and so for those who are kind of like, okay, what are preference points? What are draws? A little bit about it. So for those species, our big game species he was talking about, we have deer where you can enter into draws. These are mainly for our mule deer. So we have a couple two mule deer areas for our residents where it's a draw only, and typically then you'll get a points if you do not draw that year. Then you'll gather points, and that way you'll enter more times for the future. And so for mule deer, there's 2 units, I believe, Frenchman and Republican units for the MDCA. And then when you're talking about your elk, then you talk about, getting into points and draws for getting your elk tag, and you can build up points. Certain areas require more points to draw, typically. And then antelope, the same thing as well, based on your unit in terms on how many kind of points you need to have. The other thing we have going on currently is our lottery for our bighorn sheep as well. So lottery is open for that. So I know I just spending the morning conferring with my family members as we do group and buddy applications, so on how that works. And so you can also apply with if hey, I'm going to go hunting if my so-and-so is going to join me with me. So for me and my brother, we both signed up as a group for antelope and elk because we know we want to do those together when we get there. So we do a buddy applications.
Nice.
So either we both get it or neither of us get it. So it's a good process.
And that YouTube video, I watched the whole thing. I can't quote it entirely, but I do know that it walks you through how to do that as a group as well, so that you can figure out how to apply with your buddies.
Yep. So pretty straightforward process. Like I said, I just got done applying for mine here for this next season, and then shortly, so everything closes June 13th, and then on June 20th, everything's going to open up, or we'll start releasing some of the results for it. So just have to kind of sit patiently and wait here for a week afterwards to make sure we get all the draws finalized and correct, and then we'll send those or notify everybody else who earned those permits this year.
Gotcha.
So exciting times, so stuff to look forward to for this upcoming hunting seasons. So even though we're now officially into that off season, but as I mentioned, we kind of have a reminisce of what happened this spring turkey season. And so we had a couple 2-word phrases here. And so, Megan, yours was too short.
It was too short, yes.
So you now need to dive in a little bit deeper. Why? You said it's just not enough time, but what really hit home on those 2 words, or why was it too short?
Well, I have a job. And it was a busy month for me in May, so I just didn't get the chance to go out. We worked a few different events in April and May, and so it just kind of restricted my ability to go hunt. I hunt not close to here, so it's about a 3-hour drive, and so I like to make a trip of it. I go see my grandparents. My grandpa's still alive, so I go see him. And so it's more of a like multi-day thing rather than just going out in the evening or morning. So yeah, I only was able to make it out there once this season, and then rain, of course, which is great, but it definitely affected our turkey hunting. So yeah, put a little damper on it. It would be great for future turkeys, but this season it was not great. And end of season, it was hard. They didn't really want to talk a whole lot, so we didn't have a whole lot of success in that aspect either. So yeah, it was just too short.
So the travel, having to make it a few-hour trip there, and then I remember when you said rain, you do know turkeys still are out in the rain, right?
Yes. However, I don't like to go out in the rain. We don't hunt in a blind, so that
is true.
Something to consider is my husband and I, when we go out, he's usually tracking me around, just calling, and I'm the one that's doing the hunting. And we're not really people that like to just sit and hang out and like wait, which is like one of the, I actually grew up white-tailed deer hunting, which there's a lot of sit and wait, but I have found that you don't have to hunt that way, and I really like it. I want to move around and go find the thing that I'm chasing. So yeah, we did a lot of moving around. I think we had like 18,000 steps one day, so we did a lot of walking.
Nice.
So the rain would kind of affect that a lot.
And now I'm going to kind of put your husband on blast. Who was the first one to pick up on how close turkeys were?
Me. I was. Yeah, I could hear them, and I said to him, the turkeys are really close. And he was like, yeah. And they were closer than he realized. And so we kind of walked up right on the turkeys. And so that wasn't very effective for sneaking up on them. Yeah, when they can see you.
About how many steps after you made that comment did you take that then you heard turkeys running?
Oh, I mean, probably better to measure in yards. I bet we walked another 30 or 40 yards, and there were the turkeys.
Yep.
I think he thought like they were hundreds of yards away in his mind. They didn't sound very loud, but it's pretty densely wooded where we were at, and we were out in the open, and then we were walking towards the dense woods, and so I think their sound was getting absorbed by all the stuff around them, so they didn't sound that close, but they were, which I said, for the record, I said they're close. So I think it just comes down to he needs to believe me when I tell him that they're close.
So your recommendation by saying that they were close is that you should have stopped and waited for them, called them.
Yeah, I think we should have slowed down, like pause when I'm like saying like they're close, like let's regroup, consider, like maybe call, see how close they are. So we weren't calling when we could hear them. They had just come down out of the roost, so they're just like talking to each other. And so, yeah, I would have like waited, let them talk a bit more so I could pinpoint more where they were at, and potentially I would have looped out farther from where we were going in. I would have backed up so that we didn't directly walk like on top of them, essentially.
Make eye contact and they
yeah,
run off.
yeah, exactly. I want to intercept them, but just like not quite as quickly as it happened. I would have liked to get set up before they were right on top of us.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that was first thing on your way out?
That was our first morning hunt, yes.
Yeah, so you're like mainly just, I don't know, would say however far, but just walking straight from the vehicle at that point and then heading out to find a spot. And
yes. So we pulled up, we had a Polaris that we were driving around in. So we kind of pulled up to a spot. We're sitting there kind of listening, thinking about where we want to go, and we hear them gobble. And so we kind of had pinpointed where we thought they were at. So we had grabbed all our stuff and started walking because we had come up with a plan of how we were going to go in. Well, we are walking that way. We can hear them. And then that at some point I say to him, like, hey, they're really close. And he just kept right on trucking. So
you had the jump scare there.
Yes.
And then any more turkey sightings the rest of the, I'm assuming, weekend that you're out?
No more turkey sightings. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. We did see turkeys. So that evening we hunted, and we could see turkeys on the neighbor's field, on the neighbor's cornfield, like, I don't know, 100, 200 yards away, and we would call, and they wouldn't, and it was only one turkey. I think it might have been a hen too, and she didn't care about our calling. And then she proceeded to roost in the neighbor's trees. And so then we decided, it's kind of time to call it a night. And the next morning we got rained on. So that was kind of it.
That wrapped up your weekend.
Yep. But I got naps that weekend. So all in all, it was good.
And you got us all family too, it sounds like.
Got us all, Grandpa, which is good.
Always important. Did Grandpa ever help take you hunting, teach you anything hunting?
No. So growing up, I never really hunted. I just think that it's just kind of those things that women talk about a lot. Like I was never asked to go hunting. I think they just kind of didn't think that I would have an interest maybe. But I had boy cousins who hunted and family who hunted. And I finally just said to my uncles one day when I was like 17, 18, 19, like, hey, I want to go. And they're like, oh, well, we'll take you deer hunting. And I was like, oh, like I don't know. I was a pretty shy kid already. And so I just never thought to ask. So then finally when I'm an adult, I do. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll go. And I did. So after that, I hunted, but my grandpa's 85. So he was already getting pretty old by then. He still does stuff around the farm, but he doesn't hunt a whole lot. He hunted when he was younger, but he hasn't really in his recent years. So what he really likes is just setting up all the various blinds for us. Various creative, I don't know, like turning various bins and stuff into blinds. He enjoys that. And then seeing our harvest when we bring it back is fun for him. So yeah.
That's awesome. It's great to see family getting together, putting it together, and then sometimes it's just asking a question to get involved. So, all right. And then moving over to Rachel, you said it was a big, I don't say big, I'm throwing words in your mouth now, but a learning experience.
It was a learning
this
experience. Yes. So I've turkey hunted before, and it's usually been pretty, I've discovered from the learning experience that it was pretty much on easy mode, right? Because it was private land. Other people had kind of been out there enough to pre-scout, be like, hey, they're going to be here at this exact time. Just walk out with a shotgun, easy peasy, have a turkey. Don't even have to set up a blind. Just come up on them. So I was like, turkey hunting's super easy, right? So I've been working with some friends on the archery range and kind of getting them into their own equipment. And some of them just are interested in target shooting. That's awesome. But what their path has been is they've tried out, our Genesis bows we have for introductory programs and then some recurves. And they all decided that they really liked compound bows. They shot our introductory compound bows. And then as a group, they decided they wanted to go bow shopping. So at the beginning of March, we all went out and looked at a couple of shops, and they bought their own bows, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And now they have that in their hands. They're like, you know what? A couple of them are like, I want to turkey hunt. I want to try this out. You talk about it. It sounds awesome. And I know that I was trying to get a turkey with a bow for the first time this year. And they're like, okay, well, I'll go out. And that actually helps me a lot when I have people that want to go with, because that adds that motivation. I'll go out on my own a little bit, but if I have people that want to go with and we have to actually set a time and arrange a place to meet, that gets me out the door a little bit better.
Accountability.
Yes, exactly right. So one of the ladies I was working with, she attended the Women's Hunter Ed class at Platte River State Park at the end of March. So she got kind of all that holistic view of all the different game animals, gear, blood trailing, dressing, all that kind of stuff. And then one of the other ones that I was working with, she hadn't done that, but we still went all out together. Got the blind and decoys and chairs, and I brought all that stuff. Everybody had their own bow. And then we'd worked a little bit with, putting broadheads on our arrows and making sure that those were sighted in. So kind of towards the middle of April, we started going out, and it was initially like dual scouting and trying to find a...
So before you got out there, you did some, so you met this group all together. You guys are on the range, you've been shooting for a while. So do you ever do much work on, feeling proficient enough with the bow? Because that's a big difference between a lot of first-time hunters when they're going out. I mean, some take a shotgun. That's pretty, you put a target out on a piece of paper 20 yards away, it's easy enough to get BBs on that. But being steady to shoot, whether it's 10, 20, or maybe even 30 yards with bow and arrow, and I guess I don't know how experienced everybody is on shooting archery. Everybody felt pretty confident they're going into it of what their effective range was and getting all that settled. We had discussed that first time out, you probably don't want to do anything more than 20 yards, and just for comfort level wise. And they'd been shooting their own bows for about a month and a half at that point. And in that time, done reps, got their sight pin sighted in, so we knew what their 20 pin was and where they had to aim for distances inside that range, because some of it is a little bit weird once you get to those really close distances, right? Shooting out of chairs, shooting out of blinds. We practiced all of that so that you could figure out how to set up in that small amount of space. Because when we ended up going out in the blind, there's like 3 of us in there, so there's not a ton of space there's not much
to
room
try
there.
and draw. Talking about shoot through the screen if you need to. You can stand up if you need to. Just watching that sharp razor end and knowing how to draw down safely if you have to. And watching out for everything. So we did a month and a half of prep before we ever went out with our bows on that, just to get nice and comfortable with it.
Yep, I knew that. Like I said, that's one of the usually big hindrance for anybody going out first time archery hunting. Just know that they are confident and comfortable shooting those bows and being able to know their effective range and range judging and all that. So
yeah, and I let them cheat a little bit. We didn't have to do a lot of range judging. I brought my rangefinder.
And there is nothing wrong with cheating.
No.
I mean, it's all you're there is making sure you're having an effective shot, and that's more important than anything else there. So.
Yeah, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But the first place that I had looked, and I got a little bit again, with learning experience, I'd never done a lot of scouting on an app before. So I was doing a lot of, aerial map scouting and trying to find spots that I didn't think other people would maybe go to. So this is public land. You're trying to like find water and shelter and food for the turkeys. It looks like a good place where they're going to be hanging out, right? And also like, hey, maybe this is a smaller area. Maybe nobody's going to be coming out to this one. So the first place that I picked for us to meet, we decided to go out on a Friday afternoon, evening, take a look. We walked around, and it was a nice area, but it turns out that would be way better for upland. It would be way better for upland game on that one. Maybe a little bit of waterfowl, because there was a nice body of water there as well. We did see turkeys. We heard turkeys. They were in adjacent fields. So we wandered around, crossed some creeks, didn't fall in any holes too bad. And just kind of had a good time listening to the turkeys and talking to them, having them talk back. But they were just sitting in the fields looking at us. They didn't care.
And this was early April?
Mid-April.
Mid-April?
Mid-April. Yep, by the time we got out there. So then we decided to go out the next morning. And that's when I discovered that prepping folks with the directions, or at least like might be beneficial. So I can point to a place on the map, and, your app will usually take you there just fine. Some of the apps were not as accurate. And our first morning, 2 of us made it. And our third, she was wandering around for a while before she found where we were at. So the 2 of us were standing in the parking lot. There were turkey tracks literally in the parking lot, and we could hear them calling to us across the road. We were going to go set up our blind, and we're like, oh, the sun's coming up. The sun's coming up.
Oh, no.
I think they're going to be gone. But we tried it anyway. We traipsed across the field through some bushes and set up a blind. So that was the first time that they'd had to set up a blind in the field. We'd practiced it inside first, threw all of our gear in there, sat down. It was a little late, but maybe we'd talk to them. Maybe they'd come back by. You never know. So we sat there for a while, practiced range finding, different objects in front of us, so we had an estimate of where things would be.
Very good.
And I taught them the importance of bringing coffee with you.
Yes, that is a underrated, albeit very, very important rule. Must have caffeine.
Coffee and snacks.
Yeah.
Coffee and snacks.
You gotta have stuff.
Right.
Yes.
And then, so you got out a little bit later, but so had they any practice ever before? Even setting up a blind in dark? I don't know if it might have been kind of light up by the time you would have got out there.
It was kind of light up for that one, but no practice of setting up the blind in the dark.
A little bit more of a challenge than
we hadn't gotten
pressure or somewhere new.
Yeah.
So
we did do that later, but at that point we'd set that blind up and taken it down so many times we were good at
You had it covered. Nice.
That's good.
Let's see. So then nothing came by for that morning where we were set up. And again, it was a pretty good spot. It was edge of a field, lots of trees. We'd heard where we thought they were roosting. And of course they'd moved off at that point next to a creek. It was great.
So even though you didn't see anything that morning or really had any birds within a shootable area the day before, how would you categorize those 2 days so far?
They were fun. It was just fun to hang out and get out and, saw songbirds and that area. Later, we found we had a couple of owl friends that would talk to us during the day, too.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. But it was just good to get up and have that kind of feeling of adventure of taking all this gear out and trying to make sure you're all set up and then just trying to quietly chat in the blinds so that you're not making too much noise.
Yes.
Yes, there's been always a lot. I haven't been to too many blinds with other people that it stays very quiet during the time.
It's really hard to stay quiet.
Yes.
But we also, they hadn't practiced a lot of their turkey calls. They'd maybe seen turkey calls one time that first morning I took them out. So I was teaching them how to use the slate in the box calls.
Very good.
And see if anything would respond.
Yeah.
Then we actually decided before we left that day, because we didn't see anything after a couple hours, so we're just like, okay, so it's probably not going to work out the spot today. We went to go walk some other areas to see if we could find a spot for our next setup, because maybe that one was good, maybe that one wasn't, but it's good to have options, right?
Yeah.
So we found a spot west of there that had tons of turkey sign. There were feathers everywhere. There was scat everywhere. And there was lots of little trails running through. So we picked out another spot that we could hang out, and I think we actually came back that evening and tried again in a different spot. Still, it was just sitting there listening to the breeze, chit-chatting, practicing
Yep.
our calls.
We've all had those hunts.
Well, it's kind of the story of my entire season. So,
Yep.
yes, to cut to the end of the suspense, we didn't end up getting anything most of the season, but we went out quite a few times. And so that Sunday, I went out by myself. They weren't available. Sat in the drizzle. It was kind of nice and misty, but I liked being out in that. Still didn't see any turkeys where we were at, where I was at, except when I drove off, of course, there was a whole flock of them in a field. I think about 20 of them.
Yep.
So I yelled at them as I drove by.
And shook your fist.
Yep, I shook my fist
Yep.
down. I'm like,
Yep.
you're in the wrong spot. So that
It'd be
was...
better if they just listened to us and just do what
I
we
know,
asked
right?
them to do.
Mhm.
They didn't get the memo about where to go.
So we went out about once or twice a week for the next couple of weeks. Different
Wow.
spots. We found where their roost tree was. It was
Wow.
across the road on private.
Cool.
So trying to lure them across was the whole thing. We had one morning where it was really exciting. We had one that was talking to us, but he didn't seem to be moving any closer. So I left those two in the blind at that point. They were pretty comfortable to be left by themselves. And
Yeah.
I went out the other way to try and see if I could loop around behind him and see him. And maybe, see if we could figure out what he was so interested in that he
Right.
wouldn't move anymore. Yeah, so he was, there was a lone Tom, and he was the one that we were talking to. He was, of course, on adjacent private ground.
Oh,
Jeez.
And interestingly enough, he was romancing a lawn decoration that was spinning. So the pinwheel thing may come back into play.
okay.
He was very fascinated with the rotation of that. It was like a sunflower type thing.
So Dick Turpin knew what he was talking about.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's a piece of evidence in his column for that.
Okay. Mark a point for the pinwheels.
Yep. We'll have to tell former Game and Parks employee Jeff.
Yeah,
that-
Mr. Jeff Rollinson.
Yes, I think he'll be very ecstatic to hear that. So Jeff, if you're listening, this one's you'll be. You know, you're smiling right now.
Yes.
Had to throw that in there for you.
Yep.
That was maybe what I was missing, is I just needed to bring the pinwheel that I was supposed to have. So.
Yep.
That or
That's on
some
me.
other circular, somewhat shiny object.
Yeah, and I think that's
But it also might need to stay there for a while.
what I think.
Yep.
I agree. I think they need to become accustomed to the movement, or it might scare them off, which is what I think Michael Addison had with his last year.
Yeah, if it's brand new in that spot, I think
Yes.
that's suspicious. If it's something that's there all the time, it's like, what is that?
Enticing.
Yes.
But it can't be too long before, else they get used to it. So it needs to only be out there for like a week or so. You think?
Oh no, I want
versus-
them to come to my pinwheel, man.
So no,
I
I'm
think
saying,
you can leave the pinwheel out there all the time. I think I think the hormones might addle their brains a little bit when it's time.
Oh, okay.
Oh yes.
So yeah, leave it up year round, and then
Yes.
But they'll come up to it once it's the time to
Yeah.
get
If
interested
it's
in
a
each
lonely
other.
young Tom and he can't get any ladies to come talk to him,
The
then
only
it might
thing-
that might be where it's at.
the only challenge that I foresee with the location that I hunt is I also have cattle in there. I think the cattle might
The
also
cattle would probably be interested in what's
become
going on
interested
over
in the
there.
pinwheel and may also try to romance it or eat it.
Eat it,
So,
yeah.
Or-
Knock it over.
Scratch
Rub on
their
it
back
or
on,
who knows what. So yeah.
All
Okay.
right. So, conclusion of this, what were your fellow hunters' opinion of turkey hunting? With it being the definition of not harvesting an animal, was it still successful overall in their minds?
Yes, we had a ton of fun.
That's good.
We had a ton of fun. Everybody learned something. Everybody learned quite a bit. I learned a lot about public land and scouting and how to best take people out, making sure that we're a little bit more prepared on. We did good on the clothes. We did good on the equipment. We didn't necessarily do great on the timing every single time or like coordinating where we were meeting. So stuff like that we had to learn. And making sure that maybe everybody has a headlamp instead of just one person has
Yes.
that kind of stuff.
So normal growing pains everybody goes through at some point.
Yes,
through
but you're
it.
just doing it as a group.
Yep. Which makes it all the better because hopefully one of the others picked up or was ready for it and can help fill in that area versus another one. Hey, maybe you've got a headlamp. I have a headlamp. Hey, you forgot to bring enough coffee for yourself, but I have a little bit extra for you.
We
Yeah.
got good at that one. We all traded around bringing the coffee.
There you go.
Oh, and I mean, I had some work obligations during the first part of May that I was out a whole bunch and couldn't really go. And they were enticed enough that one of them went out and bought her own chairs, blind, and decoys, so she wouldn't have to borrow any of my stuff. And she went out with her boyfriend so he could call while she was sitting there hunting.
Nice.
And I think she would have had one that one morning that she went out, except the wind was blowing really bad in the direction that would drive the turkeys away from the blind instead of towards the blind. But they had a good spot set up for it.
Cool. That's awesome.
They're
ready for
next year.
season. Yeah.
I said, "Are you going to hang it up because you didn't get anything?" And they said, "Absolutely not. We're going out next year."
Awesome.
It's great to hear. So look forward to seeing the success stories coming this fall.
Yeah.
And then maybe enticing after getting, turkey's a great one that we talk about in the office, a great first animal to start chasing after when you're going hunting. But I'm sure it goes into after that of, especially if you're checking out all those different fields, like, there was pheasants flying when I'm walking through. I hear there's some signs of deer or that. I'm a little interested what else might be roaming around or what else maybe I could hunt here in the future. So I'm assuming maybe had some of those conversations during that.
For sure. I mean, there's all that downtime in the blind, so you're sitting there being like, oh, you know what, this is a great game trail. And I think, and you've heard some of the conversations about the tree stands. It's like, this would be a great place for a tree stand in the fall because this has a good overlook of this corner of the field, and there's critters crossing through here, and you can see all of these tracks coming through. So you're just sitting there thinking about all the other things that you could be doing next time.
Yep.
Did you guys see anything else as far as game animals?
I mean,
I know you said you saw songbirds and owls.
We didn't see the owls.
You didn't see the
heard
owls.
the owls.
You talked to the owls. Any raccoons or?
No, we saw raccoon prints. We did a whole walkthrough of another area towards the beginning of May. It had been recently burned. It was kind of cool to walk through there.
Yeah.
So we saw raccoon prints. We actually saw part of a burned deer carcass.
Oh, wow.
It was just kind of interesting to see all the things that come out after a burn. But yeah, and then the other thing, we had one field where the geese were extremely territorial.
Oh.
And they got kind of grumpy at our decoys and would honk at them and sit and just stare.
Wow.
So if we'd wanted geese and when they were in season, we would have had them
there
like
you
that.
Go.
I'm hearing some sort of I'm gonna say some waterfowl challenge now with these turkey decoys coming up soon.
There we go. There we go.
There was one time they flew over. It looked like they were trying to figure out what they were, so they flew towards the blind, kind of scoped it out, and then flew over our blind as well. But I think it was just a bonded pair that was sitting there that was really concerned about other birds in that field.
This is my area getaway.
That's funny.
That was another conclusion that I had drawn, is that I thought I'd found some scratch areas for the turkeys, which is why we set up there, because it was all the dust bowls were all scooped out. I think that was the geese and not the turkeys.
Oh, maybe. Yeah.
Because there were no clear prints anywhere to really tell who they were that was making those.
Well, I think that's going to kind of wrap us up here today. It's great to hear your two story of how the spring turkey season went. And I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on this turkey season. If you can, you should play the game along with us. Try to give 2 words of what your thoughts were, maybe 3, a little short phrase if possible, what this turkey season meant to you, experiences were for you throughout this time. I know, a lot of fun. I mean, I wish I could have got out there. I enjoyed seeing the turkeys when I was out, even just driving to some of the events that we talked about that we were all busy with earlier this spring. But it was a good overall turkey season from what I'm hearing from everybody else. But make sure to comment below what your thoughts are, whether it's on here on YouTube or on Hunt Nebraska page as well.
Or what your challenge was, because I think all 3 of us didn't quite meet our Mission Impossible challenge.
We did not.
Yep.
So mine was to use a box call or a different call than what I'd used. And since I was going out with groups, I didn't really ever do that.
I was supposed to use a pinwheel. I did not.
Yep. And
do you remember what yours was?
I knew, like I said, I've had a lot of stuff going on, and I'm running limited sleep most of the time right now. So
there's only so much room for information in there that you have to remember.
Yes.
And your turkey challenge did not make it through,
knowing that I was going to make the turkey season this year. So
I'm looking forward to hearing what Hershey and Shelby's
and Beard
Yes.
I hear
scenarios
there
are.
may
Yes.
or may not have been some success on those.
That's what I've heard too. That's
So
what the
we'll
rumor
have to
is.
bring them into the hunting cabin here next time to talk a little bit about those here coming up. But again, we're wrapping up here today, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow along with us through our YouTube or wherever you get your podcast at. And remember, we'll see you guys outdoors.
Hunt Nebraska, brought to you by your Nebraska Game and Parks Commission.